Hello everybody, my name is Charlie and welcome back to a brand new Doctor Who YouTube video on the Fifth Dimension, where I love to talk about anything related to Doctor Who. Today, I'm finally publishing, well, releasing, whatever, a very anticipated video on my channel that I've been wanting to upload for a very long time, but after September I thought I'd wait until after Christmas because chances are I, would get some Doctor Who DVDs and Blu-Rays, which I did, and that's why I'm doing my Doctor Who DVD and Blu-Ray collection. This isn't just a collection update with like a Christmas haul and some new DVDs and Blu-Rays, this is everything I've got, and this video, probably based on what I recorded yesterday, is around half an hour long. Speaking of that, I did record this yesterday, and as you can see, I've got my collection box sets arranged very nicely behind me and with season 8 at the top because it's the best season and it only arrived today. That's not in the video because I only got it earlier today and I recorded the main thing yesterday. Speaking of that, I did record it throughout the entire day, meaning the light switches on and off, and obviously since the sun moves the lighting will look different. And I did record this on my phone because, believe it or not, I can't really get my laptop and my webcam around my bookshelves. You'll see later in the video, it wouldn't really work. Anyway, I really hope you enjoy this. Please do comment below with what you think of my collection, and let's go. So we might as well get cracking with shelf 1. What a great place to start. So this is basically the start of my collection. It's in my bookshelves in my room. I know for one of my videos then I did have all these DVDs and Blu-rays in the studio, but no, they belong here and I can't be bothered to move them down to the studio every single time. So I do have these lovely collection box sets here. If you didn't watch my previous video, I am pleased to inform you I got the season 17 set, which was only released a couple of weeks ago. And if you want to hear more about what I'm going to be doing with the collection box sets, go and check out my previous channel update where I talk about the year of 2022. Anyway, we might as well start with the Hartnell era. I have considerably more than last time, which I believe my last collection update was a year on the dot. I think it was like 30th or 31st of December 2020, so my collection has probably doubled since then. So we might as well get started and Unearth the Child. Lots of people say that the end part of this, the last 3 episodes, is really bad. I respectfully disagree. I think this is a pretty solid story all round. I do think the first episode is an absolute masterpiece. It really, really is. And it's just a generally really solid opening. Like, it's not amazing, it's not perfect. There are some scenes within the caveman bit that I don't really care for. The first Doctor's really horrible here as well, but he does eventually mellow out later in his era. But yeah, generally a pretty solid story, probably about an 8 out of 10. By the way, I do apologise for my camera quality. I'm recording on my phone at the moment, and, I guess it could be worse. My old phone was not this good. So, the Daleks, the second story, people say this really is dragged out. I do love it. I do think it's dragged out, but in an effective way, so it's like a slow burn. Sure, it could have lost an episode, but generally, yeah, a really, really solid story. Probably like a 8.5, 9 out of 10. I do need to rewatch this. I haven't seen this for going on a year now. I really do need to rewatch the Hartnell era. Next we have The Age of Destruction, a 2-parter, which lots of people find this a really, really good story. I don't really get the same kick out of it. Like, I do understand why people like it, but I don't know, it's not really my thing. I do like a bit of story and action there, as well as some character development. You can't have one without the other. Or in this case you can, but not that well. Probably like a 5, 6 out of 10. It's good, very overrated. Next up, The Keys of Marinus. This is in a gold case. You can't really see it from here, but this is in a gold case for a reason. Oh my god, this is a fantastic Doctor Who story. It's 6 parts, and it's like 6 little micro-adventures. It's such a good story. The Vord are really cool villains. The whole concept is amazing. It has such an epic sense of scale, even though it is just a 6-parter. A really, really great story. Probably a 10 out of 10. It's fantastic. Next up, we have The Aztecs. This is a little overrated in my opinion. It's really good. I do really enjoy it, but it's not as a masterpiece as some people say it is. Probably like an 8.5 out of 10. We do get some really great character moments, and each character sort of does their own thing, which I really like, and they all sort of connect together in the final episode, which I believe is called, I'll come back to you. Next up we have Planet of Giants, the first story of Season 2. This was going to be the original first ever Doctor Who story, but it was scrapped, so they remade it as a 3-parter for this. I'm very glad this is a 3-parter, because it would have been so dragged out if it was any longer, like a or God forbid 6-parter. The set design is really cool and the whole concept is very creative, although I do feel it lacks a bit in terms of an actual plot. Still pretty good, probably like an 8, 8.5 out of 10, really solid. Next up we have the Dalek Invasion of Earth. I used to dislike this, I really did, I didn't think it was very good. I have changed my mind on it now. I do think it's very, very cool. And the new, well, I say new, like, the newer special effects are really effective as well and creative. I do really like them. Definitely an interesting story. I would check it out. It does drag a bit, sure. I'd probably give this like an 8.5 and 9 out of 10. Really, really great story. Finally, my last story in the Hartnell era, I know I've skipped quite a few, is Galaxy 4, the animated story, which I do have the sleeve for up here. And I really do like seeing Hartnell animated again. The cover is very nice, and the animation does not look as nice. I feel the animation was lacking in parts. Generally, though, it's a really, really good story. It's so underrated. It is not as bad as people say it is. Lots of people do think of this as a really dull one. I don't, to be honest. I think it's really like charming, quaint little story. I really like it. Now, shifting my camera a bit further up, we have the Troughton era. So we might as well get started with the animations. The Macra Terror, I got this for Christmas, credit to my sister who got this for me. I haven't seen it yet, so I can't really comment, although the animation does look spectacular. Next, we have the Faceless Ones, an animation that I believe this was the first animated story I got. Again, this is a really, really solid story. I'd probably give this like a 9, 9.5 out of 10. It's a really good. I do think it's a bit weird how this is Ben and Polly's last story and they're barely in it, but I'm not complaining. This is pretty good. The Evil of the Daleks now, a really, really great story. It's an absolutely terrible cover. The animation does look a lot better than this. And again, it's just such an epic story and a very fitting end to the Daleks, even though they didn't actually end here. But yeah, still a really, really good one. Probably a 10 out of 10. It's fantastic. Next we have Season 5 with The Tomb of the Cybermen. This is often praised as one of the best ever, and I can understand why. It's really good. Like the Cyberman designs are amazing, the voices sound really cool. It's just a very compact, nice story, and I really, really like this one. It also has some great moments with the Second Doctor and Victoria. This is her first proper story after The Evil of the Daleks. Next up, we have the Ice Warriors. I have only seen a couple of episodes of this. I feel it dragged quite a bit. Like, I really did like the first episode, but the second one was such a drag, especially with the animation, which I do feel is good, but a bit subpar, really. It's okay, but yeah, I haven't really seen enough to comment properly on it. Some lovely cover art by Lee Binding, though. Next, we have The Enemy of the World Special Edition. I've got this in a red case, which was originally home to Spider-Man 2. And that's because I really love the story and I want to highlight it. Again, this is a fantastic story, probably in my top 5 favourite Doctor Who stories ever. It's perfect, honestly. Like, Salamander is amazing, Patrick Troughton obviously plays him. 2 is amazing, Victoria and Jamie are amazing. I'm so glad that this was found 8, 9 years ago, because, well, I wouldn't have watched it if we hadn't. And apparently the only surviving episode was episode 3, which I believe wasn't the best episode by itself, but made a lot more sense and was much better with the accompaniment of the other 5 episodes. Now on to The Web of Fear, the controversial one. This is the special edition with the newly animated episode 3, and there was quite a bit of controversy and backlash about the animation because it's not a great animation, really. It's pretty shockingly terrible. Although the story's brilliant and I love the other 5 episodes. It's pretty good. Probably like a 9 out of 10 for the story. The animation gets a 2 out of 10 if I'm being generous. Next up, The Dominators. I got this for Christmas. No. Hang on. No, sorry, I got this for my birthday. I have seen it. It's terrible. Yeah, it's not a very great story. I'm glad I've got it, but yeah, it's not amazing. Next up, we have The Mind Robber, another story in Season 6. Again, I feel this is a bit of a weird one because loads of people love this and I don't really get the same kick out of it. I feel it's a bit too weird and unorthodox for a Second Doctor story. I'm more familiar with his Based on the Siege stories. That said, it has some good moments, probably like a 7.5 out of 10. It's a bit overrated. Now on to The Invasion. Oh my god, this is fantastic. This is a really good story. With units, you know, the introduction of Unit and the Brigadier is obviously fantastic. Some amazing Cyberman action, and it keeps me on edge for like 8 episodes, and I feel not many long stories can do that. Like, there are plenty of 6-parters from Tom Baker's era which don't do the same thing that this does. Finally, we have the War Games, and this is my favourite Doctor Who story ever. It is the last Second Doctor story. It's 10 parts long, 4 hours, and it captivates me for that long. And I did not get bored once in the 4 hours I watched this. I watched this actually in one day, and oh my god, it is fantastic. Everything about this is just perfect. The whole zones creates a real like sense of tension and claustrophobia, and the final episode is absolutely heartbreaking. Oh my god, this is a brilliant story. 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10. It's fantastic. Now getting on to my favourite Doctor's era, Jon Pertwee. So I have the vast majority of the Pertwee era, so as you can see, it only really ends at Planet of the Spiders here. So yeah, I have a pretty extensive Pertwee collection, so we might as well start from the beginning of the Pertwee collection with Spearhead from Space. What an introduction. This is like so good, it could have been the pilot. It just is amazing. Some really like intriguing like plots regarding the Autons and them trying to overtake the Earth by replacing world leaders. It's really interesting. We get some really cool action in the 4th episode as well, and just really nice introductions to the 3rd Doctor and Liz, as well as a reintroduction to the Brigadier. A really solid story. Next we have Doctor Who and the Silurians, the 2nd story in Season 7. Lots of people think that this is like the worst of Season 7, and then it is really dragged out and dull. I do think the first couple of episodes are a bit boring, yes, but after that it picks up so much I can easily ignore it. Like, seriously, the later episodes are absolutely amazing. We get the introduction of this killer virus by the Silurians that is a nice plot introduction that is unexpected but still really cool. Yeah, probably a solid 9 out of 10. It's really good. The Silurian design looks a bit stupid as well, but then again, this is classic Doctor Who, and they had a budget of about 50 quid. Next up, we have the Ambassadors of Death. This is one that loads of people forget about. Like, if someone says like, what's your favourite Doctor Who episodes? No one ever says this. They say like, Genesis of the Daleks, City of Death, Caves of Andrazani, Curse of Fenrik. Everyone forgets this. It's really good in my opinion. Like, seriously, like, it properly explores humanity's selfishness and greed when it comes to exploiting these other aliens. Like, the aliens aren't the bad guys here, the humans are. It's so interesting. We also get to see the 3rd Doctor go into space, which is really cool. Yeah, this is an absolutely amazing story. I could talk about this for literally an hour. It's fantastic. Probably a 10 out of 10. It's brilliant. Next up we have Inferno. This used to be my favourite story ever. It's gone down a few places now. It's probably like top 10 still. And it's a really great story. We get the introduction of a parallel Earth, which New Who fans do forget that there was a parallel Earth like in 1970. We also get the Brigade leader, who's amazing. Like, all the cast in the parallel universe looks like they're having a really fun time playing these really evil characters. It's so great, and lots of really cool Pertwee action as well. Fantastic. Next we have Season 8, a season which lots of people don't really like as much, but I think is just as good. Terror of the Autons. This is probably the weak link of the season. I don't think it's all that great. Delgado's Master's introduction is absolutely stellar, and he probably saves this story. The plot, though, doesn't really grasp me that much. The Autons aren't as scary, or the 3rd Doctor and Jo are great. Jo... Okay, no, I take that back. Jo isn't that great. Jo's a bit stupid in this episode. I don't really like her here. She doesn't get the best till later on in the Pertwee era. But 3 is amazing. The Delgado Master is amazing, and their like rapport really does save the episode. Story. The Mind of Evil next. What an underrated gem. People forget about this one too much. It's really good. We get some really solid unit action. We get this like criminal reform machine, which is kind of the villain itself. It's really interesting. And Jo actually gets a lot to do here. Like, that surprised me, but she's really coming to her own in this story. Pertwee and Delgado are amazing as always. And it's just really like very dark and grisly, kind of like the Season 7. It's a nice throwback to that. Next we have the Claws of Axos. I've got the standard edition, not the special edition, sadly. Again, a really great story, very underrated. The whole concept regarding the nuclear, the power station and the Axonite is really cool. Yeah, probably like a solid like 9 out of 10. Colony in Space now. This again is such an underrated one. It's really, really just interesting and fun story. The Master being the Adjudicator was a really nice twist. I must say, fully binding, this cover is not very good at all. But other than that, yeah, it's a really great story. Probably 8.5 out of 10. Next up, the Demons. Loads of people really love this. I think it's a tad overrated. Like, it's not bad by any means. I said that about a year ago, that it was bad. It's not bad. It's really good. But a bit overrated. Probably like an 8 out of 10. Not the best of season 8. I'd have to give that to Mind of Evil. Okay, now we're continuing with the Pertwee era, and yes, the lighting has changed. It's a bit later in the day, and I've turned my light on because it's getting quite dark. We have Day of the Daleks, the first story of season 9. I think this is a really great one. I think the newer special effects and Dalek voices are much better than the original ones. As well as, I do quite like how they linked it to Dalek Invasion of Earth. I think it was quite nice how they did that. And it wasn't just a retread of any other Dalek story, which I thought it was pretty good. And the time travel stuff was really cool as well. And we get some nice unit action as well. It's a nice mix of everything. Next we have The Curse of Peladon, the second story of season 9. I think this is a pretty good one. Again, I don't think it's quite as good as Day of the Daleks, but we've got David Troughton, Patrick Troughton's son, as King Peladon. We've got Pertwee and Katie Manning, and they're just as good as ever. We do have some slightly stupid aliens like Arcturus and Alpha Centauri, but they can be easily ignored because this is just such a fun story. It's like a murder mystery. It's really cool. Next we have The Time Monster. Lots of people really like to hate this one. I don't mind it as much. I feel the story sort of loses it as they go to Atlantis at the end, and I feel some of the special effects are really dodgy. I feel like it was a bit ambitious for what it was. So yeah, a bit of a letdown to the season, but it could have been much worse. So I'd probably give this like a 5-6 out of 10. Next we have The Three Doctors, the first story of season 10. I've got a special edition of this. It could be better, could be worse. Omega's a really cool villain, actually. I think his design's really good as well. And I do like, obviously, how they, how they've reintroduced Patrick Troughton as the Doctor, and Hartnell to some extent. Although I feel it's a bit, the plot itself is a bit cheesy and pantomime-like. The gel guards are pretty stupid. I do have some little gripes with it that, yeah, make it a bit lower down on my ranking than maybe some other people's. Okay, so now to the second story of season 10, Carnival of Monsters, the standard edition. I think this is a really, really fun, creative story. I do like the use of different settings, like we've got the ship from the 1920s, we've got the Jurassic, like, wasteland, and the Jurassics, by the way, are really cool villains. Fun fact, they're actually an anagram of dish rag. That's where they get their name from, because they used to hold like a dish rag out so the actors can pretend to look at something. Just a fun little factoid. And I think the whole concept with the milliscope and the milliscope being on this other bigger alien world is really, really cool, and it's just a fun concept. Next we have Frontier in Space, probably my second favourite Doctor Who story ever. I think it's an absolutely fantastic, large-scale, epic space battle story. Like, we've got 4 aliens that the Doctor is fighting against. We've got the Master, the Ogrons, the Daleks, and the Draconians, and the Doctor's being caught in the crossfire. People can joke all they want about the capture, escape plotline, but it's just so creative. The model work is amazing, and it's just, the sense of scale and world building is just so fantastic, I think. Planet of the Daleks. Lots of people like to hate this one, saying it's a retread of the original, but it's Terry Nation. The original's good, and he just uses that formula again, and it works. It's a pretty fun story, in my opinion. Like, don't take it too seriously. Just enjoy it for what it is, and you'll like it. It's a pretty good one. Green Death. I got this just a couple of months ago. I haven't watched it yet. I do plan to at some point. I'm sure I'll like it. Next, we have 2 copies of The Time Warrior. The first story of season 11, an introduction to the Sontarans, or a Sontaran, and Sarah Jane Smith. This one is really good. It's not my favourite story ever, obviously, but it's a really, really fun story. Lynx is amazing, the Sontaran. Iron Gron is a really fun character. Yeah, it's just, there's lots of things that I just think work really well about this one. Next we have The Monster of Peladon, the not quite as good sequel to The Curse of Peladon. It doesn't quite live up to its predecessor. That said, there are still some fun moments. Queen Thalira is pretty good. The Ghost of Agador concept is cool. But I didn't like how they made the Ice Warriors bad. It sort of retcons you know, the fact that they were good in the Curse of Peladon, you know. Planet of the Spiders. I haven't seen this one. I can't really comment. I'm sure it'll be very sad because it's my favourite Doctor's last story. Shuffling the discs up some more, we are starting with the Fourth Doctor, Tom Baker's era, a very iconic era, with Robot, the start of season 12. Yeah, this is quite a cheesy one for Tom Baker's first story, and it doesn't really feel like your typical Tom Baker story. It's kind of a Pertwee leftover. Either way, there are some fun parts. Ford's introduction is amazing. He's just amazing right from the get-go. Sarah Jane has some cool moments, and there's a nice unit action. Other than that, there's some pretty dodgy special effects, and like I said, it is a bit cheesy. Genesis of the Daleks now. I've got 2 copies of this as well. This was actually the second classic Doctor Who story I ever watched, and I didn't really like it the first time I watched it, but I've watched it a few more times now, and I really, really love it. I think it's just such an inspired concept. The creation of the Daleks, it's just very epic, and I'm really glad they didn't, you know, make this bad, because that would have been the official start of the Daleks, and it's a really bad story. But it's not. It's pretty amazing, and I love it. Next we have Planet of Evil. I really wanted to like this story because it really does sound like my kind of story, and it's got some beautiful cover art from Lee Binding and some really nice set design as well. I didn't like it. I thought it was a really dull story. Yeah. Continuing with the Tom Baker era, we have Pyramids of Mars. An absolutely fantastic story in my opinion. It might be a tad overrated actually. Sutek is brilliant, and I just think you know, Fourth Doctor and Sarah Jane are absolutely on top form, like they are for most of series 12 and 13. Although, I don't know, I feel the plot had a few pacing issues and there were a few little plot holes that weren't entirely resolved. But besides that, you know, I can enjoy it. It's one of those stories where it's kind of a rainy day story. Like, it's just one of those ones, you know, it's quite a cozy story. Next we have The Seeds of Doom, the season 13 finale, and oh my goodness, this is probably my 3rd favourite story of all of classic Doctor Who. It's amazing. I really love this one. I'd probably give it a 10 out of 10. It's absolutely fantastic. Harrison Chase is a really menacing and crazy villain. The Krynoid's amazing. And it's like 2 stories, so it doesn't really drag much. Next we have season 14, The Hand of Fear. This is another, like, it's a bit of a nothing story, really. But I can still enjoy it for what it is. Like, it just feels very, I don't know, it's like they tried to get a 100-minute story out of something that was basically 10 minutes. The final episode is so weird, where they go back to the weird abandoned planet. That was just such a weird twist. Eldrad is really creepy, and Sarah Jane acts surprisingly childish and whiny in this, which is really annoying considering, as it says here, it's her final classic story. Next in season 14 we have The Deadly Assassin, Tom Baker's first and only companionless story in the little bit of time between Sarah Jane and Leela. This is a really fantastic story with the reintroduction of the Master, although he's a bit like burnt and crispy. We've got some really cool, like very dark scenes in the Gallifreyan Matrix. Tom Baker is amazing, and it's just a really fantastic, epic Gallifrey story. It's fantastic. Next we have The Robots of Death, a story which I found very overrated. I think it's not that good. Like, the first couple of episodes are really good, but I feel it loses it a bit. There are some really weird, unexplained plot points that don't really make much sense. I don't know, I might come to appreciate this more, you know, when I watch it next time, but for now, not really my cup of tea. Now we have season 15, an Underworld, a really hated episode, story that I don't really see the hate for. I mean, I dislike it, but I don't hate it as passionately as lots of some fans. I feel the CSO caves are really dodgy, and I really hope they tidy that up in the collection box set whenever it does come out, probably in a couple of years' time. But generally, it has some good stuff going for it, but I feel it fails in a lot of departments, although I do like how it relates to Greek mythology. Following on from that is The Invasion of Time, the last story in season 15, and Leela and K9 Mark 1's departure story. Again, this is a really hated one. I think this could have been the best 4-parter, well, not the best, but one of the best 4-parters that Doctor Who has ever done, but it had to do those last 2 episodes with the Sontarans. Those last 2 episodes were so bad that it just ruined this story for me. The first 4 episodes were so amazing, but I'd probably give this like a 5 overall. Now on to possibly my favourite Doctor Who season, season 16. The Key to Time season, where it was like a quest storyline where each story was one segment of the Key to Time out of 6. Kind of like Avengers Infinity War. Firstly, we have the Reboss Operation, or Ribos, whatever you want to say. Again, this is a really fun story. I really like Romana 1's introduction. Just the whole setting is very, like, rich and atmospheric. I feel, you know, some amazing set design was done here, as well as some really nice moments with K94 and Romana. A really, really solid story. And then we get the two, like, con men, which I really like that subplot as well. It's really fun. Next we have The Pirate Planet, one of Douglas Adams' stories from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He did this before. Yeah, this is a really, really great story, I feel. An amazing performance from the actor who played the captain. I can't remember what he's called. But yeah, the whole concept is just so creative and fun with, you know, Zanuck just sort of absorbing Califrax. It's a really cool idea. And the whole concept of the segment of the Keach time being Califrax was really fun. Well, not fun, it was interesting. Now we have the Stones of Blood. Lots of people say they really like this. I think it's a bit rubbish, to be honest. I don't really like how they mix, like, a dark and gothic story with a sci-fi story. I don't think it really works. I do think it was quite fun, those weird, like, light-based space police. I can't remember their names. Hang on, I'll just check. Open the case. And the Megara, that's what they're called. Yeah, they were quite fun. And generally, this is an okay story, but I feel it just sort of, the two genres aren't really meshed very well. That said, contrasted, the Androids of Taro, this is fantastic. This is like a mix between medieval, period piece, and sci-fi. It's so fun and creative. We have like a, you know, an old medieval setting mixed with androids. It's really, really fun. And then we get the Grendel of Grocht, who's an amazing villain. That sword fight in part 4. Romana's doppelganger android. It's so amazing. I cannot get over how good this is. This is probably a top 10 story for me. Power of Kroll. Oh my god, no, I'm not a fan of this one. I feel it's just a really dull story, as well as Kroll looking and being stupid, as well as it just being so drawn out and boring. I could just fall asleep. Armageddon Factor, the most underrated classic Doctor Who story. I love this to pieces. I know, like, there are like 3-4 episodes of literally just the Doctor running away from the Shadow. Either way, it's a really fun story. We get some really cool twists, and my only complaint is that Romana didn't really get to do much, and I feel the first episode is a bit dull, but other than that, it's a really, really solid one. Now on to season 17, the DVDs I do have. City of Death. What a story. This is fantastic. I really, really love City of Death. I might talk about it a bit more when I do the season 17 collection, or when I talk about it in this collection overview. Now the Horns of Naimon, I've not seen it yet. Well, I've seen a bit of it, but I didn't really like it. Now on to season 18 with The Leisure Hive. I don't mind this story as much as most do. I feel it has some good stuff going for it. The Famazi do look pretty stupid, but I feel the concept is really cool with the whole temporal manipulation things. And the city design looks really cool as well, but at the end of the day, yeah, this Famazi look really stupid, and there's some ridiculous moments in it. Now we have Full Circle, the first story in the E-Space trilogy. Yeah, not really a fan of this. It introduces Adric, and I don't really like him until season 19, at which point he dies. Spoiler alert. It's fine, it was over like 40 years ago. Nearly 40 years ago. Full Circle, yeah, not a fan of this. The Marshmen look a bit stupid. Yeah, not really big on this one. State of Decay, on the other hand, oh my god, I believe this is, yeah, this is by Terrence Dicks. Wow, this is amazing, like, tying this to Gallifreyan mythology, as well as having some lovely cover art. It's a really, really inspired story, and I think it's a really great one. Although Adric doesn't get much to do at all, and he actually acts really selfishly sometimes. I'm still not a fan of Adric. Warrior's Gate, the most stupid and nonsensical Doctor Who story ever, but I can't help but admire the ambition. It's such a crazy one. I don't even know what to think. The Keeper of Truaken, the penultimate story in Tom Baker's era, and I feel this is an underrated gem, actually. I feel it's a really good one. The whole stuff, you know, the mythology surrounding the planet of Truaken, as well as the Melker, are really interesting. Nissa actually has a really nice introduction as well, and I feel she's actually best in this story. Yeah, really fun, and it's nice to see the twist with the Master at the end. Logopolis, the most disappointing ending to a Doctor's era possible. Oh my god, this is... Oh, I do not like Logopolis at all. It's one of my 5 least favourite Classic Who stories. I do like the last episode, though. I will give it credit for that, but no, the first 2 episodes are so awful. Yeah, that'll be interesting to talk about in a random classic one day. Now on to the 5th Doctor's era, Castrovalva. This is actually a really delightfully great story. I was really pleasantly surprised at this. The whole, battle with the Master is amazing. Lots of this looks like an Escher drawing. It's really funky and crazy, especially that cliffhanger at the end of part 3. Even Adrictine and Nyssa, I don't mind. I feel this is a really interesting one. The worst episode is probably the first. Now, continuing with season 19, we have Earthshock. Yeah, I really like Earthshock. Again, I feel it is a tad overrated, but at the end of the day, people really love this, and I love it, not as much, but still. Adric died as well. I feel this was the only story, one of the only stories in season 19 he was actually very good in. Cybermen are really cool as well. We have some great cliffhangers with those and some nice action. Oh, and the new special features are good as well. Well, not new. Actually... not special features, the CGI, the newer CGI, let's say. Now we have Arc of Infinity, starting with season 20. I think this is a really underrated one, I do feel there are really stupid parts. Omega's redesign is shocking, so is that stupid chicken pet he has. Nyssa is actually really good in this. I feel her scenes on Gallifrey, like just shooting people, are really fun. Yeah, this is actually an okay one. I'll probably give this like a 7. Now the first story of the Black Guardian trilogy in season 20, Mordred Undead. I hate this because it, sparked the whole unit dating thing where it said the Brigadier retired in 1976, even though he didn't, because Invasion is set in 1979. Still, this is a really fun one. Turlough's introduction is pretty good as well, and the whole stuff with the timey-wimey nature of it's really interesting. Now the second story, Terminus. People really hate this, apparently. I kind of like it. I feel it, gives Nyssa a decent send-off, actually, considering she didn't really have much to do for the entire Peter Davison era, except in Arc of Infinity. Those guys, I can't remember what they're called, are really interesting. And I don't know, I just feel this is a really, fun, like, it's not a fun story. It's like a rainy day story. It's very dark as well. I quite like it. Now for the final entry into the trilogy, we have... Enlightenment. This is a great story. I really love Enlightenment. Some really interesting period piece designs and costumes, as well as that amazing cliffhanger that they're on a spaceship. I did not see that coming. The Eternals are really interesting beings. I think it's such a creative script, and I was, again, really pleasantly surprised by this. I feel it's a testament to how underrated the Davison era is. 5 Doctors. This is a really... It's a really stupid story that should not work, but it just does because of how fun it is. All these doctors, all these companions, some really clever use of Shada footage as well. I think it's a really creative story as well. Good weather today. We have Resurrection of the Daleks. This is... I don't know, I have quite mixed feelings on this. I feel it relies too much on action and spectacle than actual plots as such. Like, it's a bit of a nothing story. I feel loads happening, but just I don't really care about lots of it, and lots of it doesn't matter in the end. It's that sort of story. The Caves of Andrazani. This is like one of the most loved Doctor Who stories ever. I do agree with what lots of people say about it. I think it is a really great story, although again a tad overrated. It's not the best Doctor Who story ever. Definitely like top 10, top 20, but maybe not top 5. There are better stories. Now we have Attack of the Cybermen, the first story of season 22, and I've only watched the first part of this because I think it's a bit rubbish, to be honest. I'm not really a fan of the Colin Baker era generally. Yeah, so just probably like a 5 out of 10. The 2 Doctors. Oh my god, this story drags so much. You'd think I'd love this considering I'm a Troughton fan, but no. This is bad. Like, the location filming is okay, I guess, but like, both Doctors aren't very pleasant, neither are the companions. Even Jamie's actually alright. I do quite like the dynamic between Jamie and Six, but the rest of the stuff I didn't really like, and it's such a huge story as well. Probably like a 6 out of 10, maybe 5.5. Now on to the Trial of Time Lord season with Mysterious Planet. I I love the courtroom scenes, but the individual segment, like the story itself, I wasn't really that invested in. I didn't really care, to be honest. Although Glitz is quite a good character. Mind Warp, surprisingly underrated. I actually really like Mind Warp. I think it's just a really interesting concept. And Perry's departure is surprisingly sad, considering I don't really like Perry at all. Yeah. And we get some horrible villains in the form of that guy there. I can't remember what he's called. Now on to Terror of the Vervoids, episodes 9 to 12. Yeah. There's some alright stuff going on here. Again, I feel I like the courtroom scenes, but the plot just it's okay. I wasn't really all that invested. Finally, the ultimate foe. This is like a Chibnall ending. Oh my god, this is a bad ending. I did not like this. Yeah, no, not very great. The Master, I don't really think his appearance was necessary either. Now on to the 7th Doctor's era, starting with Time in the Rani, an absolutely abysmal story, my least favourite of all of classic Doctor Who. It's terrible. The only good thing, really, is Kate O'Mara's impression of Bonnie Langford. That's about it. Even the 7th Doctor, although I like the 7th Doctor later on, I don't really care for him here much. Paradise Towers, this is a great, if a bit flawed story. I feel there's quite a few plot holes, like, why did they think he was the Great Architect? It just does not make much sense. Either way, it's a fun story. Chief Architect is amazing. The cleaners are very menacing robots. And the setting's really cool and atmospheric and claustrophobic. I really like it. Delta and the Bannermen. A fun, cheesy, stupid story that I absolutely adore. Enough said. So I've just shuffled all the DVDs up a bit further, and now I'm getting towards the end of the collection. We have Dragonfire, the finale of season 24. People actually rated this in 2013 as the best story from season 24. No, I'd say this is the second worst after Time in the Rani. I feel the dragon's a bit stupid, the production design is really shoddy, and I know they had a bad budget, but, you know, it was better in Paradise Towers. Yeah, not huge on this, although Ace has a very good introduction here. Remembrance of the Daleks, standard edition. I also have the special edition. Yeah, this is actually a really fun, exciting story. I feel after some really weird, unorthodox seasons, I feel it's sort of returned to form a bit here. I really do love season 25. So this is an absolute gem of a story. I feel the whole Dalek Civil War is really cool as well. Some brilliant action. Yeah, fantastic story. The Happiness Patrol. This is actually a really cool, like, satirical parody of, like, you know, like an evil government. I feel it's a really cool concept. The Candyman looks stupid, but that's kind of the point. And the whole thing with the pink TARDIS and the weird Greek letter names are quite creative. I feel it's a fun story as well. Silver Nemesis, I got this for my birthday and I saw this the other day. I think this is better than Remembrance. I think this actually should have been the 25th anniversary special. I feel it just has loads of different plots that I feel merged together very satisfyingly at the end. I feel it's a really great story, actually. Very, very underrated. Probably a 9 out of 10. Compared to maybe an 8 for Remembrance. The Greatest Show in the Galaxy, I got for Christmas, so I haven't seen. Ghostlight. I also recently ordered this and I have not seen it. By the way, I know I've only got one McCoy story left to get, Battlefield. I've actually ordered it, so that will be in the next collection update, probably around like August, September time, 2022. Now we've got The Curse of Fenrik, the third story of season 26. Yeah, this is a really great story, probably in my top 5. Yeah, a really, really fantastic story. I really like the concept is just really creative, like vampires, a Viking curse, the military base. It's just a really cool concept, and the code cracking as well. It's just very much my kind of story. Now we actually have the DVD files version of Survival, a story which I feel is a very solid story, a very fitting end to classic Doctor Who, and it feels like they sort of knew it was coming to an end. Even though they didn't. They just happened to not make another thing for 9 years, which was the TV movie. Anyway, this is a really great story. I feel there are a couple of weird bits and plot holes, but, you know, I can tolerate them, considering this is just a really solid outing. Now on to New Who. We have, you know, the OG volume releases. I have Volume 1, Series 1, Rose, The End of the World, and The Unquiet Dead. And for Christmas, I got the complete first series on Blu-ray, which is a very nice release. It'll be nice to see Series 1 in HD. Generally, I really do like this season. I feel it's just a really solid season, probably the best until maybe Season 8. Season 7, not as bad as everyone says. Still not the best, but it could be worse. And I've got the Blu-ray of Season 8, Series 8, because we're in New Who now. Yeah, Series 8, it's a really great series. I really do like it. I do like the 12 and Clara dynamic, as well as it having some pretty great episodes, like Time Heist. We've got Listen here, Mummy on the Orient Express, Dark Water, Death in Heaven, some really great ones. Oh, and Last Christmas as well. And the complete 9th series on DVD. Yeah, probably my least favourite of the Capaldi era. Still a really enjoyable series, though. I feel it suffered from basically having, like, 7 stories, because loads of them were two-parters. Now, we're getting very much towards the end of the collection now. With Series 10, we've got Series 10 Part 1 and Part 2. Yeah, a very, very strong season. Again, I feel Peter Capaldi and Pearl Mackie and Matt Lucas is just an amazing trio. I really wish they'd return. Sadly, they probably never will, but anyway, an amazing season and an absolutely fantastic last two-parter. That's probably my favourite of New Who, maybe besides Heaven Sent. Now we have all of Torchwood. As controversial as obviously this guy here is, I do love Torchwood. I think it's a really great series. And I'm going to be doing those Torchwood quickfire reviews I told you about in my other video, my last channel update. Go and check that out if you haven't. And finally, we have the Sarah Jane Adventures Series 1. I have not seen this in years, so I can't really remember much about it, but it's definitely aimed at people younger than myself, so I kind of understand if it's not, if I don't really like it as much. Also, now on to the crown jewel of my collection, the collection sets. I have Season 17 and Season 24. So Season 17 I got for Christmas. I really, really do love this set. It's just a fantastic set. It's got some great upscaling of the video and audio. It's got some really nice updated special effects, as well as some really brilliant special features, and some of them are quite funny as well, especially the behind the sofa. That's fantastic. As for the season is, I just finished Destiny of the Daleks recently, in between recordings of this video, and it's fun, a bit shoddy made, it's an underrated one. I quite like it. City of Death is fantastic, as I said. The whole plot with Douglas Adams, written by Douglas Adams, with like Scaroth and the mystery is just amazing, and the rest are okay. Nightmare of Eden's fun, I guess. It's alright. And Season 24 as well. Season 24, this is a great set. This is the first collection box set I ever got, and the first one I got on its release. So that's about it for my collection. I'm also planning to get Season 8 as well, and DVDs I'm expecting to arrive soon are Battlefield and Fort of Doomsday. Surprise, extra segment. So I'm recording this the same day I'm recording the first and last bits of this video, and earlier today I did get the collection Season 8 in all its glory. It's a fantastic set. I cannot wait to watch it. That's all. And that is just about it for my collection. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Again, please do comment below, let me know what you thought of this collection and your favourite items. Ask me any questions about my collection, I can answer them. I do love seeing comments, whether they're constructive criticism or, preferably positive. Anyway, I will be doing collection box set reviews. My next video will be a review of Eve of the Daleks on obviously the 1st of January 2022, which should be tomorrow. I really, again, hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you tomorrow.